How to report appropriate information to your charge nurse. So you always gotta make sure that she's always up to date with things that you notice with the resident. So let's say like a resident refused their meal today, you gotta make sure that you let your charge nurse know that room 5A didn't want to eat her meal today for breakfast. So you gotta make sure that you let her know. So she could go back in the room and ask her why she didn't want to eat, or ask her if she wants anything else, even though we already asked her if she wanted anything else to eat. But we gotta let her know. Or like let's say like we found a sore on your resident, you gotta make sure that you let her know like, hey, I noticed that that Philip has a red spot, looks like it's gonna become a sore, and you gotta make sure you let her know so she could tell you what creams to use on him. But you always gotta make sure that your charge nurse is always up to date with any information that that has appeared to you that is different from the residents, from them acting in a certain way. But you always gotta make sure that if you notice any changes on your resident, then you gotta make sure that the resident you gotta make sure that your charge nurse knows. When we document vital signs and activities of daily living, we gotta make sure that when we document the vitals, so usually we document blood pressure, their pulse oximeter, respirations. I think that's it. But when we do that, we have to make sure that we take their blood pressure. Usually the ones that we use at work, it's the blood pressure cuff, the wrist ones. So we gotta make sure that we put it on the wrist, take their blood pressure, and then we use their finger, for the pulse oximeter to know their oxygen level and their pulse. And their thermometer to check their temperature. Right now, how everything is going, we always gotta make sure that we do those before breakfast and after lunch. And with activities of daily living, those are pretty much like when we chart, it says that if it's like let's say today Sally, she's usually very active and she turns to the side for me when I change her. But let's say like today she didn't feel like doing it to me, she was not wanting to turn on her side for me. You gotta make sure that you chart that, that she was not letting you touch her, she didn't want to get chained. So you just gotta make sure that you chart those things. Or like if a resident usually walks to the restroom and you notice that today that the resident wasn't really walking, didn't really want to use the restroom, you gotta make sure you chart that. You just gotta make sure you chart the right things that are happening that day, not what things that you assume it's going to happen, but always gotta make sure that you chart those things. Documenting changes in patients' bodily functions and behavior. So you just can assume things that is going to happen. Like say you have a resident that likes their snacks every day, and then the next day, like, she's not asking for any snacks, she's not wanting to eat. So you just gotta make sure you chart those things for those certain days that are happening, not assume that they're gonna be eating all their meals or all their snacks. And then for behavior, there are some residents that can become very abusive. So in some of the residents' charts, it has like their behavioral chart. So it has like different things that residents like can do to you. So like like being very sexually, or being like hitting, punching, screaming, yelling, biting. It has all those things on there. So you like say like my resident, he has that on his chart, and let's say like today he was hitting. So you got to make sure that you put that he was hitting, or at the at the end of the day. And then let's say the next day he didn't do that, so you got to make sure you chart none that appear, so you put that. So you let the people, you got to let your nurse know that he wasn't being abusive today, or any of the follow behaviors that show that he wasn't doing today. But that's how you document changes in patients' bodily functions and behavior. participating in residence care planning. So that can be like noticing, like something on your resident, like, sore. So like when the next rotation comes, you gotta make sure that you let those CNAs know. Or let's say you notice that usually one of your resident is, continent, and she hasn't been like going to the bathroom. You've been noticing that she's been wet in her bed, so you gotta let the charge nurse knows. And then after that, you could do like bladder retraining. If that doesn't help, then your charge nurse will let you know that they're incontinent now, so you gotta make sure that you let the other rotation know. But that is how you can participate in residence care planning. With bladder retraining, this usually happens if they have an illness, an injury, or an activity can cause a loss of normal bladder function. Residents may need help in re-establishing a regular routine and a normal bladder function. Urinary incontinence may be a problem when retraining the bladder. Because incontinence can be embarrassing or difficult for a resident to discuss, the nursing assistant should be professional, sensitive, and empathetic when incontinence occurs. Most care team members will be involved with charting and providing bladder retraining. Nursing assistants should understand the following of the care plan for each resident. Follow the plan consistently. Explain the training schedules to the resident directly. Direct any questions the resident has to the nurse. Follow standard precautions. Wear gloves when handling bodily waste. For resident in isolation, additional personal protective equipment (PPE) may be needed. Follow the care plan. Observe the resident's elimination habits. This helps predict when a trip to the bathroom or a bedpan or urinal will be necessary. Encourage plenty of fluids throughout the day if allowed, even if the incontinence is a problem about 30 minutes after fluids are consumed after a bedpan, urinal, or a trip to the bathroom. Offer a bedpan or urinal or a trip to the bathroom before beginning long procedures and after the procedures have been completed.